Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast on getting more from your finance data with Thorogood and Databricks. And today, a special welcome to Greg Taylor, who's going to talk us through Databricks. He's representing Databricks as the Regional Vice President. So I'll hand over to him in just a minute. First, though, I'm going to introduce Thorogood for any of you who are new to our webcasts. First of all, I guess introduce myself. I'm Andrew Kennedy. I'm a consultant with Thorogood. I've been with Thorogood for a number of years, and I've worked on delivering projects with various cloud platforms, including Azure and Databricks. So some of the things we talked through today are very relevant to the projects that I've been working on. So in terms of introducing Databricks, I'll leave that to Greg in a minute. First off, I'll talk through Thorogood. So we're a business intelligence and analytics specialist consultancy. We focus on serving customers out of our global offices, so that's London, Boston, Philadelphia, Bangalore, Singapore, and Sao Paulo. And in all of our projects, we look at a number of focus areas. So we bring a business focus, we bring that alongside the technology and our knowledge of analytics, and we bring all of that together to deliver on the possibilities for your business goals. So for today's webcast, we're talking about Databricks as a technology platform and how we can use that to deliver on the business goals that you have for your finance department and with your finance data, and looking at a journey really that you can take with that. In terms of the types of solutions that we deliver, we do that across kind of end to end. So we start with strategies and roadmaps. We work on solution design and development. Some of our specialist practice in planning and business modeling, but also in data and analytics services. Once we've built those solutions, then we work on training and empowerment to really make sure that we get them embedded in the business, and then ongoing we provide maintenance and support. Like I said, the focus on what we do really is bringing together those business goals and the technical possibilities to deliver on the opportunities for your business, and that's what we'll try and bring across in today's webcast. To start us off, though, I'm going to hand over now to Greg Taylor from Databricks to introduce himself and to introduce the Unified Analytics Platform.
Thank you for the opportunity today, and thanks to everyone. As Andrew said, my name's Greg Taylor. I'm the Regional Vice President looking after the ASEAN and ANZ region for Databricks. I'm based in Sydney. I have an American accent. I moved down here almost 18 years ago and haven't left. I've stayed in this part of the world. So thank you for all the time, and I wish I could be there in person, but you know, you guys probably all want to be exactly where you are right now with all the things going on in the world. So who is Databricks? Databricks is a company that was founded in 2013, and our unique value proposition is that our 6 founders created Apache Spark. And since then, we've donated over 70% of the open source code to the Apache Spark Foundation. And if you know anything about Apache Spark, it's one of the fastest growing languages for managing and processing huge data volumes and huge data loads. So we're committed to Apache Spark, and since then we've released or contributed a few other very important open source projects such as Delta Lake, MLflow, and that underpins what we do as a company. We're a global company. We have offices in all of the major continents and a number of offices across Asia Pacific. So we have offices in Japan, in Singapore, in Sydney, in Melbourne, in China, and in India as well. It's dotted across India. What's exciting is that we're at the very core of what we do is really helping data scientists, data engineers, and business analysts come together and use a common data platform to be able to deliver business value. And we think that's compelling because the challenge right now that we see in the market is that oftentimes most organizations fail to unlock business value because the data is often siloed. And so if you look at the original problem statement that happened 40 years ago, data warehouses were created. Data warehouses are very effective for what they do. They're just not modern anymore. Over the past 10 years, the amount of data coming in has obviously increased, but the different varieties of data have increased as well. So you think about alternative data sources like Facebook or Twitter, or even things like Salesforce or Workday, and being able to correlate all that data. Unfortunately, the traditional data warehouse does not allow you to do that. So we feel as though, and feel very passionately, that in order to deliver on today's business value, that's required around data and analytics is you need to be able to do machine learning and analytics in the same environment. And the problem statement out there is that data lakes were created about 10 years ago, and data lakes in general have very dirty data. They're hard to get organized, and they don't have the consistency and the rigor that a data warehouse would have. What they do have, though, is they're inexpensive. They can manage large data sets, and they can actually trap all the data and pull all the data in to make real-time decisions and be able to deliver models and analytics and data science. And so we see the 4 challenges of unlocking business value in today's environment is data is messy and it's siloed. Whether it's a warehouse, streams, lakes, there are many different silos out there. And the objective is, in order to get a holistic view of the business problem to solve and create business value, is you need to be able to have all that data in one place that you can access it. The second is machine learning is hard, but putting that into production is even harder. We've seen that be constantly a difficulty. It's very easy to do in a non-production environment, test and improve. However, it's very hard to do in a production environment. So you have this difficulty between data engineers and data scientists. And interestingly enough, data scientists spend 20% of their time doing data science and 80% of their time looking for the data to do the data science on. The third thing that we see is that BI is limited to a fraction of the data. And this is because you have all these data silos. Oftentimes your business intelligence that your analysts are producing is really only limited to what's sitting in your data warehouse or maybe coming out of your transactional data systems. It doesn't often capture your IoT, your machine learning, your alternative use cases. And so you really want to tap into that data lake and be able to do that. But up until now, data lakes have been very difficult to run modern data architectures on. And then finally, most organizations that are enterprises, the challenge around big data is it has a lack of enterprise readiness. You have fragmented security models, you have poor visibility or reliability into those models, and oftentimes the governance is very disjointed. It's really the governance of that data scientist's laptop or the business analyst laptop or the person or organization that's in charge of collecting, harvesting, and organizing that data. Databricks has what we consider a unified data analytics platform, where we believe you can bring data engineers, data scientists, machine learning engineers, and data analysts all together in one space. And you can actually look at that big volume of data, whether that be from your data warehouse, your data lake, or any of your data stores, and push that out and use a open standards, modern infrastructure to be able to do data science on one cloud platform. And that allows you to collaborate across the life cycle and also allows you to use all of the modern languages such as PyTorch or TensorFlow and be able to have some pretty sophisticated BI integrations where you can actually do BI directly on top of your data lake using some open source technologies that have been contributed by Databricks and other members of the community. You can access all of your business and big data in an open data lake. So for 10 years of data lakes, you've been pushing a lot of raw data there. Now what you can do is you can actually use a platform such as Databricks Unified Data Analytics Platform to categorize that data and actually be able to categorize as bronze, silver, or gold, and then tap into that as you would a data warehouse without having to export it into a different format or put it out into another data silo. And the exciting part about that, it's all built on open standards, so Apache Spark and Delta Lake. And then finally, the power of being able to work in the cloud is that it's on demand and it scales infinitely. So whether it's AWS or Azure, and stay tuned, some of the other cloud platforms, Databricks is available on top of those platforms. Now, financial services is only one of the roughly 160 users we work on across the globe. Things like, and every customer has, certain financial services use cases that they're interested in. Whether that be customer analytics, financial modeling, risk and fraud detection, analytics from credit, or even marketing analytics. All of these things are available. It just depends on what's the questions that you need to ask. 3 good examples, and I won't go through all of them, but I think are relevant. HSBC, FINRA, and Nationwide are all global customers of Databricks. Each of them have unique use cases where they had huge volumes of data that were locked away in very expensive data stores, and they were trying to get at those, provide a business value or unlock business value for their customers. HSBC is probably my favorite example. The use case was around mobile banking. They need to modernize their product development for their consumers, their mobile apps, by utilizing machine learning. And so they chose Databricks because it allowed their data scientists and engineers and their analysts to build new data products on one shared source of data. And the impact of this, and this is why it's important, these are not just experiments. These are actually, when put into real use, they improve their global mobile engagement on their app by over 4.5 times. So not just 10%, 4.5 times better engagement on the mobile app. They took their data processing down from 6 hours to 6 seconds. And, a lot of that is because the data was sitting in one repository with infinite scalability using a technology like Spark. And these are actually real numbers. We see it pretty consistently, that you usually take things from hours to minutes to seconds because you're using a modern data platform. And then finally, they were able to take 14 different databases with one data lake to improve their productivity. So they're able to take that and then put it on a very, very low-cost environment and be able to pay by the second, by the use, as opposed to having, machines running full-time. So today, though, we're here to talk about the partnership between Databricks and Thorogood. Now, there's a lot of power that Databricks can bring to you, but that power is not available without partnerships like Thorogood. And so we believe that strategic partnerships drive incredible business outcomes for their customers. And so both organizations are global. They have good business value consulting resources. We have great access to roadmap of reference architectures. And where we find that we differentiate ourselves against, just experimenting is we can look at a use case. We can invest oftentimes in a use case and project planning to help the project teams get a real outcome. It's a fully managed SaaS platform service. And so, as you get with that, you get full security, enterprise-grade security, all of the, security SOX compliance, things like that. It's globally supported, and it has a global footprint. So the same that Thorogood has a global footprint, we can service, multinational companies in any country that they're operating in. And then finally, we're data and AI experts, both organizations, and we bring different skill sets, but at the end of the day, we care about data, and we have deep pedigree in being able to deliver amazing outcomes to our customers. So if you give us the opportunity, the call to action is, we can deliver things in your industry for your solution on your use case. Just give us the opportunity to work together. And thank you for that. I appreciate that, and looking forward to, if anyone has any more questions, I'll hang around, and you'll also have my contact data and whatnot after the session.
So yeah, thanks, Greg, for introducing the platform. What I'm going to do for the next part of the session is really talk through some of the really impressive things that we've been able to deliver through that platform. And there are a number of use cases that I'll mention over the course of the rest of the webcast. The first is a global CFO scorecard, showing you how bringing finance data from across the global organization, putting that together with data from multiple business units, really gives you the ability to see exactly what's happening and to take a more unified approach to delivering on the business goals across the organization. Second, we'll look at an example of data-driven audit, something that's particularly useful at the minute, where we're working with an audit team who previously have been going out and traveling to each of the countries that the company operates in to do their audit. More recently, global travel hasn't been possible, so we've helped them take it to the next level and use data to highlight the issues so that they can prioritize where to focus their attention. And finally, we'll take a look at an example where a manufacturer is using finance data in the data lake, but combining that with data from another department to support a key group of users, key account managers, to find the win-win scenarios that bring benefits for both the manufacturer and for their retailer. The examples we're taking today and the journey that I'll talk through is focused on the finance data sets within the organization, but equally what we're talking about will work on any data set in a global organization, really. But I want to talk through some of the challenges that we've seen with customers, particularly definitely on global data sets, but particularly within finance data sets. And there are a number of challenges that we see across the customer examples that we work on. The first off, there are challenges with sourcing the data, so particularly with different data sources across different parts of the organization. And that introduces challenges in aligning the data. It also increases the value if we bring that data together so it's all available in one place and we can get the whole picture. And then when bringing the data together, there are typically challenges in aligning the income and the costs, for example, to the organizational hierarchy in a way that allows the data to be used to drive decisions and to track their impact. And then on all of these systems and global organizations, a key challenge is balancing the need for a model that's simple enough to allow the analysis with the reality that global organizations and global enterprises are complex. And then added to that, there are challenges with getting access to data a lot of the time, especially if we're moving from a world where that's across multiple systems. One of the things that we see as a challenge in the old world where data is spread out, you have those silos, is that the data owners will have their own priorities, and ultimately that can lead to delays. And at a time like now, when it's vital to be able to move quickly and respond to challenges and opportunities as they emerge, again, bringing all that data into one place has a great story and a great opportunity for being able to get at the data more quickly and unlocking some of those use cases. And this is just a summary of some of the challenges that we've seen in the organizations we've worked with, and we've been able to help them along a journey that takes account of these challenges and delivers better visibility and creates a platform to support ongoing innovation. And so that's what we're going to talk through in the rest of the session. We're going to talk through this kind of steps to success. We've called it journey to a finance data lake. And I've broken this journey down so that we could think of it in a few different steps. One key thing to point out, though, I've set this in a lovely, neat, straight pattern. A key thing for our customers as we work with them on this journey is that the journey evolves as you go along it. What I want to set out and what I think it's useful to have as you go set out on that journey is to have a strong vision for the direction you want to go, and to have a key sense of what your goals and your priorities are at the start. But one of the great things about working in a platform like Databricks is that we can adjust and adapt as we go along and do that based on the new business opportunities that we see emerging. So thinking back to what Greg said, really talking through a couple of the things that we've seen fantastic about Databricks in implementing this kind of flexible solution. Databricks storage scales as the data grows. So one of the great things about that, the fact that it sits on the cloud platforms, is that we can add new data sources, new use cases. We can even add new flexible analysis for things like unstructured and streaming data. So as our data evolves, we don't need to try and predict upfront what our data volume is going to be in 3 years' time or what use cases we want to tackle within the next 3 years. We can allow that to be driven as we go on by what we see happening in the market and what our new opportunities are. The flexibility of the platform, the ability to use things like Python libraries, etc., and the much wider ecosystem that Greg talked about, means that we can deliver on the widest range of use cases, all within that common platform. So whatever the data transformations are required, whatever the data science approaches that you're going to need, we can implement those all within that one interface. And then obviously there are things that we expect around security, resource management, logging, all sorts of things that you expect for an enterprise solution, and Databricks gives you all of those appropriate provisions for that functionality. So let's take a look at the steps along the journey, and as we go along this, I'll introduce the 3 use cases that I talked about earlier. So the first step is to bring global data into a single platform. Now, bringing all the data into the platform at once and absolutely all of your organizational data is probably a very big ask, given the challenge of sourcing the data and the variety of data in the organization. So what we've done with customers and where we've seen real success with this is to identify kind of valuable slices of the data, portions of the data that we can bring in, so a subset of the data that supports valuable use cases. And that way, by bringing that into the platform, we give analysts easier access to that set of data. And so that might be something like P&L data for all of your business units across the organization. And then even just by bringing in that P&L data, that gives analysts the ability to see what's available, they can see what data is there, and even that will give them some sense of what opportunities they could be delivering value on. What we're going to do now very briefly is bring up Databricks. So if anyone hasn't seen the interface before, I want to at least give you a chance to see what it looks like. So as you can see, I'm accessing this through the web browser, and this is something that some of our business analysts might use as an interface into Databricks, or something that our data engineers might use to build it in. And what we have here, for example, is a system where I'm loading in the different data sets for different areas in the business. So here, for example, I'm bringing in master data, so I'll not go into this in too much detail. We've got geography data here. I'm bringing in calendar data, date dimension. We've got some customer data coming in. And if as an analyst I wanted to switch in and get a kind of visual representation of some of what's happening here, I can switch into a chart view, and it will immediately it's giving me one view. I can switch to plot options, get more of a sense of what's going on there. So we can change up the visualization and get some very basic visualizations, but right in there alongside loading the data in. So I can do those two things at the same time. And here we've got, like I talked about, bringing in data from different parts of the organization. So we've got fact data coming in from the US, we've got fact data coming in from Europe, and we can see we've got those in one structure. And then here we've got fact data coming in from Asia. And as you might expect in some organizations, certainly with the customers we've worked with, the data from some parts of the company is coming in different formats to others. And what we've been able to do by using the Databricks platform is load those in. So like we talked about, make them all available in one place. And that first step gets it in the hands of analysts. They can do the data manipulation that they need to do for the tasks that they've got, but at least they've got access to all the data in one place. The next step that we'll look at then is bringing that data together. So that might mean reshaping data from some parts of the company and bringing it all together in one view. And what we've done by the end of this piece of analysis that I'm showing you is bring together all of those three regions into one view. So if my analysts want to run a SQL query over the top of that, just get a very quick sense of what are all the fields that I've got available even. I can run that and get that across the organization. And we're doing this all by using Databricks and some of the great functionality in Delta Lake. So here we're using Delta Lake to store it all back into the storage. So our analysts can go straight into this data set. They don't have to do all of these steps every time. Next time an analyst comes along, they can go straight in and just access that final output data set as if it's there and use it as their starting point. If that seems too technical, I'm going to get on to a series of use cases now and talk about how we use that as the underlying data platform and the underlying data to meet a number of use cases. But I thought it's just useful to see the platform and really see what it does and what it delivers. So I've already talked briefly about getting into the second step. Once you've got all the data into one place, the next step is to start to align that data and build it into a structure that enables analysis across the different business units and across multiple data sets as you build those in. And the benefits there, you've got the underlying global definition, so you can spend less time manipulating the data at the start of each project and more time getting into the valuable analysis. It also makes it easier to build consistent, robust analyses, and you know that those analyses map well to your kind of defined global hierarchies. And this is something that we've done with a great range of customers. We'll put up an example here of a time we've done it with a health and hygiene products manufacturer. So when we started in this journey with them, their finance reporting was being prepared separately by each business unit with all the challenges that gives around consistency. And each unit was choosing their own metrics. And so at best, each unit was using a different set of metrics. There's also a risk there that each business unit, if they're choosing their own metrics, they could have been reporting things that were more flattering for them. But by consolidating all of the data into a single platform and aligning it into a set of global metrics, we give them one view of what was happening across the organization. And that gives the global leadership team an ability to look at countries side by side, to look at what's working and what isn't, and to get the visibility they need to really drive a holistic strategy across the organization aligned to a set of common goals. And this is a dashboard we built. So this dashboard is built in Power BI, and it's pointed at that data that we built up in Databricks Delta. And obviously, all of the data I'm showing in today's webcast is made up and mocked up for the sake of the webcast. But the customer example that sits here, this gives you a really good idea of the sorts of things that we're reporting back to them. So they can get a view of their key metrics. They can see the P&L by each of the countries. They can drill down and get a full view for any category, country, or customer. But a key thing to remember here as well is that all of the data that we've used to put together this dashboard is available in the Databricks platform for any of our business analysts to go in, use the same data to answer more complex, high-value questions and build out more use cases on it as well. So with that dashboard, we kind of talked into the third step of our journey here, standardizing KPIs. So that allows us to faster identify the challenges and the opportunities. So we can be tracking those KPIs, tracking metrics over time, and we can spot changes as they occur and react to those and respond quickly to market changes. So all of these three steps really are building up on a journey towards a single global view of data. It gives our leadership teams, other key decision makers, a trusted source of business knowledge that they can use to take the best actions to deliver on the organization's priorities. Once we've started to build up that one global view of the data, what is it we want to do on top of that? Well, we want to build up end-user solutions that focus on key areas that will deliver value. So here I'm going to look at a very specific use case, but to give you a hint on some of the things you want to look for, to identify areas for this kind of solution. Look for repeatable analysis. So where have you got several people running the same kinds of analysis process? One of the advantages of that is if you can automate the process that several people are doing, that kind of gives you a multiplicative effect on the return on investment. Also, you want to look at the business decisions that are going to be improved by kind of more timely and up-to-date data. One of the things that Databricks is great at, as Greg said, quite often we're taking data processing from hours down to minutes, down to seconds, and that means we can be getting data into the hands of users even through some things like Databricks streaming capabilities into real-time use cases, if that's the appropriate thing to be doing with a data set and making decisions based on that. So think about, where can we make better decisions if we've got more timely data in the hands of the users on a more regular basis. And the use case that I want to kind of draw on from a customer perspective here is one where we worked with a global audit team to look at their audit process and see how that can become more data-driven. So historically, they were running the process country by country, traveling to different business units, sifting through all sorts of invoice data. So particularly looking at invoices, POs, approval processes, payments, and looking at all of that with the local teams. And that was already leading to challenges where issues were only being caught at the point of the audit, and there was a high probability of issues reoccurring because if they're finding that as a point problem and solving it as a single issue, then obviously something that's happened once can happen again. But all of this has taken on a special importance recently given the difficulties in global travel, and suddenly the whole way the audit team works has had to be rethought. And we've used Databricks to crunch through the massive volumes of complex invoice data and PO data that the customer has. And doing that, we're able to help them surface and prioritize the most important and urgent cases that they can look at. And that does several things. It allows them to focus on more than one country at a time so they can see what's happening globally. And it also focuses their attention where it's needed most, and they can look at common cases across countries and automate the process of catching those cases. So if they see a problem once, we can build in the rules and build in the steps to catch that and flag it when it happens again. And doing that allows the audit team to shift their focus from being just caught up in doing all the data analysis and manual data processing, and instead focus on looking at the important cases, working with the local teams to get those issues resolved and make sure really that they can get invoices paid right and paid on time. And so just to give one example of a dashboard where we've done that, again, this is a fairly simple example dashboard with fake data on it, but one of the questions that they wanted to tackle was where have invoices been raised where the invoice has been attached to a PO, the PO date is after the invoice date. So something there that suggests that something's gone wrong with the invoice. There are a few different cases that they want us to look at, things like that, things like duplicate invoices, even invoices raised against entirely the wrong PO, or looking at questions like who the approvers were and what the timelines were that they needed to follow. So a whole series of complex questions, really, and that's where Databricks allows us to work through that large volume of data, providing an up-to-date view of where they were against the whole list of checks, so that the audit team could focus on not just the data crunching, but actually the audit team were able to focus and see what the issues were and spend more time working with the local finance teams to resolve the challenges and make sure that they could get the invoices paid. So we've gone through the question of bringing all of the data into a common platform. We've structured it, added global definition of KPIs, and we've looked at building out a suite of applications to tackle specific business processes. And what do we do next? Well, logically, if we've got this much data coming in from our finance data sets, we'll want to look at combining that with other data sets coming from across the organization. And one of the great things is how easy Databricks makes it to scale and expand and bring in additional data and the shared data sets between different parts of the organization. So here, if we brought all of the finance data into Databricks Delta Lake, maybe our sales teams have got some of their key data sets loaded. One of the things we want to look at is how can we get more value from combining those two data sets together. And that's something we did with the finance department of a global consumer goods manufacturer. And we worked to build an application based on using the finance data as the backbone, but blending in third-party sales data to give key account managers a better view of the win-win opportunity. So an example of where the finance department were trying to help another part of the organization make use of finance data to improve what they were doing. So previously, the key account managers had been manually looking up various different data sets to look at sales levels, to look at what the manufacturer's priorities were, and trying to understand when they went to the retailer what was the competitor landscape. And so all of that, obviously, a long and arduous manual process of looking up different data sets, something that quite often give good results, but there wasn't a way to validate if they'd find the best result, if there were more results that were available, because really a lot of the opportunities were left hidden in the volume of the data, and the opportunities went unexplored. And so we worked with them to combine finance data with the full internal P&L data from the finance department, along with third-party data that gave a sense of the sell-out from the customer, so what is the retailer actually selling to the consumer, and also to get a view of competitor sales from the retailer. And so that gives the key account manager a much wider view, but also it allows them to look at cases where they can see growth for the manufacturer, but also we can see growth for the retailer. And so what you see in the bottom right-hand corner on this dashboard that we gave them was an example of where you can see them looking for the win-win scenarios, where volume growth for the manufacturer is obviously a good thing, but if you can identify cases where that matches with profit growth for the retailer, that the key account manager can go in and have that conversation provided with that data and really find the scenario that gives the best outcome for both parties. And here they were able to do it by combining the internal P&L data with the third-party data from the retailer. They could estimate what the retailer margin was as well and get a sense of which products are going to drive the best outcome for both parties. So that completes the steps in the journey that I want to talk through, and then I'd suggest we go on together. But I'd say even once we get to that point, once you get through the 5 steps in this, you'll want to keep innovating and adding more data and more use cases. So it's not a kind of 5 checkbox scenario here. Really, it's a case of moving through this and bringing more and more data, more and more sets, and delivering more and more value through additional use cases as you go through this process. And for each of the examples, I've shown you kind of sample dashboards that we worked with the customer to deliver. But all of that is built on the flexibility and the scale of the Databricks platform. And so that's something that I want to talk through, how we can work together to get started on that. So as Greg says, Databricks has great capabilities, Thorogood has great capabilities on these. We've got experience in delivering this to a number of customers. And we've got an approach to helping you get started on this journey. One key message, I think, on getting started with this is to just get started. As I said earlier, in the past with some on-premise data solutions, it really was important to spend a long period of time at the start figuring out kind of 3-year, 5-year data strategy, working out each and every use case that you wanted to tackle as part of that. But a key advantage of some of the cloud solutions, and Databricks in particular, is that there's the flexibility to add data and to run a really wide range of analysis. And that means that we're not having to commit upfront in the same way to everything that we want to do over the next 5 years. So we can get started and know that we can adjust and adapt to the different business priorities that we'll see across a period of time. And I think this year so far has been a great proof of the fact that we need platforms that can adjust and adapt to what we want. So I think a great way to get started with that is to find a valuable slice of the data, something that supports 1 or 2 really important use cases, and use that to get started in the journey. And that's something we can help you with this kind of initiation workshop approach. And doing that, something that we've done with customers before, is to take a day upfront, look at the technology, introduce Databricks, introduce Delta Lake, introduce MLflow, whichever components of that are going to help your organization. Get hands-on with it. So for some of your technical teams, but even for business users, we can adjust and adapt this for whichever team is using it. But get a sense over 1 day of what technology can do and really the art of the possible. And then spend the second day, 1 to 2 days, taking your data along with Databricks and see, what can we quickly prove some value on, and what will be the use cases that really will prove out the platform and give us the basis for moving forwards on that. So if this is something that's of interest, I'd ask you to reach out, and we'll be happy to discuss exactly what structure we should take with this workshop to help you. So that brings us to the end of today's webcast. Thank you for spending your time listening to us. Hopefully it's been useful. I'll thank Greg again for presenting on Databricks. If you want to get in touch with us, I've put our contact details on the screen again. So please feel free to reach out and let us know how we can work together on some of this to get you started on building towards this data platform.